Hello everyone, welcome. In today's video we're looking at how to use the Izzy Tailor square ruler. That is this one right here. As you can see, it's a pretty big ruler and it is incredibly useful for pattern drafting. So I'm Izzy at Minerva and I'm going to be talking you through how to use the ruler and giving you a couple of demos today so that you can use it at home confidently. So the ruler itself is made out of flexible plastic. You can see it's giving a little bit of a wobble there. It's really nice because it sits flush to the paper. It's quite thin in terms of its construction, and you can use it on both sides, which means that you can use either sort of curve, upside down or right way up, and it gives you lots of flexibility. It has this lovely right angled feature down here, which means that you can draw things perpendicular really well. It's also got, this is a metric ruler, and it's also got 0 to 54 centimeters, which means you can draw nice long straight lines. And the ruler is split into 10 centimeter increments using this red grid, which is really nice. The ruler has, as you can see, lots of different curves and shapes, and all of these curves look a little bit random until you start to realize that they work really beautifully with your block. So certain types of shapes and curves are going to work really well as you draw in different types of features. So let's take a look now at a couple of different examples of how we can use the ruler in our pattern drafting process, or to alter patterns we've already got to give us beautiful shapes and consistent lines. Now when you're using the ruler, you want to be using a nice sharp pencil because that's going to give you lots of accuracy, which is what we're aiming for when we're altering patterns. However, I'm just going to use a Sharpie on the screen today so you can see it as I'm drafting. So here on the screen in front of us, we've got a very typical back bodice shape. We've got the waist at the bottom, this is our centre back, this is our arm side and the shoulder line. We're just missing this little neckline up at the top. So using the pattern drafting ruler, I'm first of all just going to use the right angle feature just to extend this line across here just a couple of centimeters in order to give us a nice line that is perpendicular to the centre back. The reason I want that is very simply because the pattern piece is mirrored, and so I want a nice smooth back. I don't want like an angle at the back. And now we just need to join this point up to here with a smooth curve. So it's taking a look at the curves that we've got here. This one's obviously far too wide, this is too gentle, so it's going to be one of these curves here. As I look at it there, I can just see that that's going to work really nicely. So looking at the ruler, decide which curve you want to use, and then you can just use it to draw in a really beautiful curve just like that. So it's really simple little steps like that that you can use the ruler for. Another really nice feature of this ruler is the fact that it has this strong red line running all the way down and parallel to this side of the ruler. Now this line is offset 2 centimeters from the line here, so that's a really nice reference if you're increasing or reducing or needing to draw a nice 2 centimeter grid somewhere on your pattern piece. But we can also use it just to line up really nicely with the center back line, and we can draw in a nice parallel grain line on our pattern piece. So the ruler is useful for all sorts of things. Why don't we now take a look at the front pattern piece, looking at our neckline and arms, and see how we can use the ruler's curves for those areas as well. Okay, so in front of me here I've got 3 examples of a front bodice. Centre front is here, neckline, shoulder line, arm side, side seam, and 2 darts in the middle leading into the apex. So if we're drafting, obviously all these lines need to be drawn in by us. So it's really helpful to have a ruler that allows us to, create those shapes really nicely. So down here on this block, it's missing the waistline. So we can just use the curve of the ruler here just to really gently draw that in. So down here, got a nice little curve between there and there. And then picking up the curve here, we can just use our ruler to create a little curve at that point. So there's just one example of how we can use the curve. Now up here we're missing the neckline. We want it to look something like that, obviously not exactly. So looking at the ruler, it seems to me like one of these curves is going to work really beautifully for us. So let's start off by using the ruler to create a nice perpendicular line coming out from the neck point there. And then we can just use this curve here to create something that is going to give us the shape that we want. And that's given us a really nice little neckline shape there. On this example here, everything's been drawn in except for the arm side, and we want a nice curve that matches the side seam, somewhere around that help point, somewhere along this line, and then finally up at the top there. So let's see which one of these curves is going to work for us nicely. I'm going to have to use two curves, I think, to get this working the way that I want to. So I'm going to use this inner one to start off with, just like that. And then I'm just going to pick it up here and use this inner curve of this one, just to create that shape that I'm looking for. You can see how we can use two different shapes just to create that lovely consistent line. Okay, let's move on now to look at the lower half of our body, so skirt or trousers, and how we can use the curves to help us create good shapes for those areas too. On the screen here, we've got three different skirt fronts. Obviously only got half of the skirt front. So this will be the center front line here. This is our waist, hip, and the side seam. On this example, we're missing the dart. Over here, we've got the dart and it's shown in, but we're just missing the hip curve. So let's use our ruler and find a nice shape for our hip curve. Using this outer shape here is going to work really nicely, just like that. Now, if that is the shape of your hip line already on your pattern, and potentially you're just altering your pattern slightly, you want to bring it in by 1 centimetre, you're making a reduction on the pattern piece, you can mark that 1 centimetre change on the waistline and then use your ruler just to find a nice curve that will work for that reduction next. Something like that. So that rule is really useful for just creating those soft curves around the hip line. That would work also beautifully with your trouser legs as well, your trouser leg block or a trouser pattern from the waist to the hips. If we're looking at the darts here, obviously we can just draw a straight dart using our straight side, but sometimes darts are slightly curved, and if that is the case for you, then you can just use potentially this inner line here to create a nice curved dart. And finally, on this example over here, we're missing the waistline. So really, we're looking for a shape that isn't too exaggerated, but that is still a nice, gentle curve. So something like this, isn't it? Okay, so in this example here, we've got our sleeve block. This is the front, this is the back, this is going to be the sleeve, the top of the sleeve. And we've not drawn the rest of the arm. We don't need that for this detail. So we're going to try and find some nice soft curves that work really nicely for this shape. I'm going to start off just by sketching out something that I think will work, and then I'm really wanting to kind of bring that in like that. And so can you see how we've just used the kind of various curves just to create that nice smooth arm size shape right there. And so there we have it. That wraps up our little video looking at how to use that ruler. In today's video, I've been wearing Minerva fabric, which is our very own brand fabric. This is heavy duty jersey cotton fabric, and it is in lime green. And of course, we'll tag this fabric below the video for you so you can easily find it on our website, along with the pattern drafting ruler. So thanks for joining me today. I've been Izzy at Minerva. I'll see you next time.